So the next thing I actually want to ask you was pertaining to the student movement. So in Bangladesh, there is a mass movement going on that started out with a student protest against the rejecting the quota that was for so-called freedom fighters, and then shifting that to merit. And then the Supreme Court also passed this legislation, which said that 93% were going to be on merit, but the protests continue. And now it seems that it's gone far beyond a student movement, and it's a sort of popular uprising against the current regime that is calling for free and fair elections and everything. So how about you tell us about detail as to how you see what's going on in Bangladesh, what exactly is happening?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very complicated thing. Let's back up to talk about student politics in general, also based on what you said about Balochistan and so on. Um, it is incredible to me that in our time, in so many countries, student politics are criminalized. Um, Students are not allowed to be political. I was surprised some years ago when the historian Dipesh Chakrabarti was in Bengal, and he gave an interview and he said students should spend more time studying. I thought there was an uproar on this. So I reached out to him. He teaches at the University of Chicago. I know him. He was in the subaltern studies group and so on. And I said, Dipesh, why don't you give me your opinion, like unfiltered by the media? You just send me a paragraph and I'll publish the paragraph, like no filter. He sent me a paragraph, and in the paragraph, he basically said students should spend more time studying. Now, this is an interesting attitude. It comes down to a kind of, if I can use a big word, epistemology of education. How do you see education? What is the system of knowledge of education? See, I believe, for instance, that you can sit with a book, and I read a lot of books, and that's fine. And, you can talk to a lot of professors, and that's fine. But those who engage in trying to change the world, I generally believe, have a better understanding of the world. So, for instance, a liberal, somebody who reads Locke and maybe the Pakistani constitution and reads Pakistani constitutionalists, they will say, go on television and say, but, this is the law and this is how it should be. The law decrees that there should be higher education in Balochistan, and there should be students there. Okay, fine. Now it's, in fact, when a student says, why has a Baloch student been arrested for merely putting up a sign saying, I want XYZ housing, better something? When you do that, a police knocks on your door and says, why did you post that on Facebook? You have a better understanding of the world than that prof on TV, because the prof on TV believes the liberal language. You have an understanding of the structures of power. So students who struggle are not just struggling here and then studying here. In fact, the struggling is making them mature, much more mature thinkers about the nature of the world that they live in. So I think one should, in fact, allow for open student political dialogue on college campuses. There's no such thing as saying, "Arey, you can't do politics on a campus." I mean, the saying you can't do politics on a campus is the biggest political decision. Let students have debates, discussions. Let the right-wing students make their thing. That it's about creating a public discourse. So why criminalize students? If a student says something, why arrest them? Have a debate with them. Students at JNU about a decade ago yelled the slogan Azadi. They were arrested, being said, oh, you support secessionist movements in Kashmir. In fact, that was not the context of the cry Azadi. They cried Azadi because somebody was released from jail. And Azadi, as you know, means freedom. Doesn't necessarily mean freedom for Kashmir. That's not what they said. They just chanted Azadi. Why doesn't a government minister or somebody else come to the campus and have a debate with the students? Let's have a debate and discussion about Kashmir. Why is anybody worried about that? Have a discussion about Balochistan. Why are people worried about that? Having the discussion is by itself not a criminal act. And by criminalizing student politics, you really take away the heart of a society because you're preventing young people from being brave about their ideas. It takes the heart out of society. People spend the rest of their life being scared. And I'm talking here about the middle class who go to university. If the middle class is completely unconcerned about politics, what happens then is they don't understand how to be political. So suddenly a movement will arise, I'm against corruption. Arey, explain to me what corruption is. I don't know what it is, but I'm against it. In India, we've had these waves of anti-corruption protests. But anti-corruption means what? It's not a politics. It's not even a class politics. This protest in Bangladesh actually reflects a little of that. It starts off on I think it's an unimpeachable issue. How many generations are you going to benefit people by this kind of quota? For instance, if I take my family, go back and look at your family who fought against the British. You have to register as a freedom fighter in India. What if 1/4 of your grandparents were freedom fighters? Should you get access to 1/4 of the quota? There's a little absurdity in it. I understand people who sacrificed to fight against imperialism, they should have got some benefit, some maybe a house or something, because they sacrificed. When they went to jail, they lost their lives. They should have been, but do their children need to? And their grandchildren? This is an open question. So the students said, look, we don't want any more quotas. Okay, have a discussion about it. Or say, let's put that on a referendum. Don't criminalize student politics, because that then escalated. See, in Bangladesh, the issue has not been about what is the issue. The issue has been the students can't be political. You understand? That's the problem. It's not even the issues. It's not even the issues, because nobody wants to discuss the issues. They're just saying students should not be political. And this is happening across the world, in South Asia as well. In India, Umar Khalid is still sitting in jail. For what reason? Why is Umar Khalid in jail? What has he done? What crime has he committed? There are students, Pakistani students picked up and tossed in there. Nobody knows the name for most of them. Yeah, they are just sitting in jail. Why? What have they done? They have come to some protest. They put a white flag up or a black flag or whatever flag they put up, a red flag. Does it matter? They are going to politics. They are going to jail just for assembling and putting a flag up. The color of the flag is not relevant. And I find that objectionable. I think we have to fight for the right of students to be political, to have a political judgment, to learn to be citizens by being active politically. The very same people that are criminalizing students in Pakistan, when they were in university in England and so on, they were part of these Oxford debates and they would show up at Harvard University at seminars. They enjoyed a kind of student free speech. But when they come back to Pakistan and take on the reins of power, they say that Pakistani students can't have the exact experience we had in Oxford. That is very much objectionable, very objectionable. In fact, they post pictures, videos of themselves speaking abroad. What the hell, man? If you can do it, why can't others?